Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you can see my screen and you can read it. Digestion. You can hear me? If somebody could just confirm that you can hear me properly, inshallah, and then we'll start. Is it clear?
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You can see the screen?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, very good. Okay, inshallah, about food, what exactly are different components of food that we are eating, right? Different parts of food that we are eating. We discussed about fats, we discussed about carbohydrates, fats, water, minerals, and also fibers, dietary fibers, right? So you remember this food is needed, but we cannot make use of this food until it's digested. So digestion is a very, very important process of your body, because if you're eating proteins, eating fats, carbohydrates, until they are transformed into a form, broken down into smaller molecules, broken down into smaller pieces, you cannot make use of this food, right? So you need this food to be digested, and that's what your body is doing this great job for you. So this we call it, this process is called digestion. Okay, so what comes to your mind? What do you mean by digestion?
Digest. Can I answer?
Yeah, okay.
Digestion, like from the breakdown of small food molecules into, big food molecules into small food molecules.
Yeah, into smaller molecules. And that, for example, they have mentioned that your body is basically breaking down that food. For example, large molecules of proteins that can be broken down to smaller molecules. Small molecules are amino acids. So these amino acids are basically needed by your body. So what you're getting out of protein is amino acids. Similarly, carbohydrates, you cannot make use of carbohydrates until they are broken down. For example, starch are bigger molecules, right? We discuss about that. And starch is giving you small molecule, which is sugar, and that sugar or glucose finally is required by your body. Okay, large fat molecules, again broken down into fatty acids, and these fatty acids are then absorbed. So that is called digestion. This process is called digestion. The breaking down of large food molecules into smaller food particles is called digestion. Okay, so generally what we call it, digestion. That is the you are breaking down all bigger molecules into smaller one. Is it clear, inshallah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you could see here, it's a bit like pulling Lego bricks apart. Lego, you're using Lego for making toys, right? So you bring smaller pieces and make a big structure, boat, doll, cars out of Lego, and then you break it down. When you break it down, you're removing different smaller parts. So your body is doing the same thing, from the starch, proteins, and fats, breaking down into smaller molecules. Okay, because if we don't break them into smaller pieces, they may not be absorbed. So when the food has been digested, the next process is called absorption. That is absorbed through the wall of the gut. The gut is your intestine, okay? Through the gut wall to your intestine and to the blood, because you need things in the blood. When it reaches the blood, then you can use them for different functions. Your cell can use it for different activities, enzymatic reaction. You can also get energy and for the growth of your body, and restoring and storing energy in your body. Okay, so that becomes a part of your blood. And this is why before the food molecules can go through the gut wall, they must be dissolved. So one of the one of the objective of digestion would be to break down these molecules so that they can be dissolved. Because if they are not dissolved, they are not in the form of solution, so it may not be absorbed very easily. So that's what they are giving you. The large food molecules are insoluble, so they will not dissolve. Large food molecules cannot get through the gut wall. So large molecules are not soluble, so that you cannot make use of such food particles that are large in size, and they may not be absorbed, right? So what you basically do, you need to break it down. So exactly opposite of these two descriptions, small molecules are soluble and they will dissolve, while small food particles or molecules can get through the gut wall. The gut wall is, I mentioned, intestine. Your intestine is absorbing food, right? When you take it, you drink something, you eat something, you take it orally. So it goes through the food pipe, we call it esophagus, and then from the esophagus goes into stomach, and then stomach then is mixing different different chemicals, different enzymes, and then is finally pushing to the intestine, where the intestine, a part of this food, is further digested. And you know, in the intestine, we'll talk about the area, how food is absorbed, why it is the intestine that is absorbing food very efficiently, very quick, in the best possible way. Okay, if that's why if somebody is suffering from diarrhea, so that's why one of the reason would be that patient cannot absorb much food, because most of the thing would be excreted from the body, that will be taken out of the intestine in the form of stool or watery stool. We call it watery stool or diarrhea, right? So now they have boxed this definition for you so that you remember what's going on. That is important. What you are eating, your food, we talked about for proteins, starch and carbohydrates, fats, and different minerals. You are drinking water, drinking milk, for example, juices. So all the food that is going down to the your gut. Okay, so that is why this is called the process of digestion will take place, and digestion would take much of the things from the food. You are eating meat, you are eating eggs, bread, fruits, vegetables. All these nutrients are absorbed through the intestine, and finally is part of your body. So the things that are not absorbed, like fibers, maybe those things that are not digested, this called giving bulk to your food. So they definitely remain in the big the large intestine. So in the small intestine we'll talk about just in a while, and then finally it's excreted in the form of feces. We call it stool as well, from the anus. So this is how the process of digestion takes place, right? Okay, so I think this is just a repetition what we have discussed before, that what we are getting out of our food. You can see very easily, this is very clear here, right? So digestion, is it clear? So I think this is the one that we talked about. Would you like to give name of the enzymes that we discussed about digestion of these food particles?
Can I tell?
Yeah, tell few of them. Yes, Sabiha. First of all, which?
Protein, proteins,
Yeah,
and
first.
they digest on proteins to create amino acids.
Yeah, they will
Carbohydrates.
be digested into smaller units, amino acids, and these amino acids will be absorbed from the intestine, so they can easily go inside the body. They will be taken away by the blood, so the blood can then distribute these nutrients to your body where they are needed, right? Okay, who is going to tell me the second part, which is starch, and which enzyme is responsible for that? So this one she already explained. Now we are coming to this part. Go ahead.
May I tell again?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates break down the starch molecules into glucose molecules.
Yeah, so you can see here. This is called digestion now. Starch is digested by carbohydrates, and we have got glucose, and glucose can be easily reabsorbed. It can be easily absorbed by your body, right? In the where? In the gut or in the intestine. and then you have a fatty molecules. Remember, fats or oils are digested by lipases and they are releasing fatty acids. So these fatty acids are, when all these particle or these kind of foods are digested, we are eating bread, we are eating meat, and definitely we are cooking in oil. So all these are essential part of your food we are eating every day, and that's how your food is digested in all these different smaller molecules. Amino acids, glucose, and fatty acids are released out of this food. So you call this process, the whole process is called digestion. You could see here you have very specific enzymes that are working on digestion of particular food. Carbohydrates, proteases, and amylases are carbohydrates, and lipases that will uh, digest the lipids, right? So let's see to the next part what happened then. Okay, what so so let's talk about the gut. That is the your inner tubing, the digestive system. There is the whole digestive system, and you could see they are saying that it's about 9 meter long. 9 meters is very big, right? Bigger than the size of a body of an adult. If normally take it 5.5 feet, that's around 1.5 meter. So this 9 meters is too long. Your digestive tracts, you could see digestive system. Your even just intestine alone would be 6 meter. So there's more than the size of the body, but they are folding. If you remember, your digestive system is folding. Okay. So before we go, let me share with you this part if I have it or not. Let me see. It's not, no, they're not showing here. Yeah, we got it. Okay. So first of all, in your mouth. So you start eating food, right? You're taking food through your mouth. So they have given you a very big structure here, and we'll talk about different parts of the mouth, what the teeth is doing, what the tongue is doing, and you could see here what are the different enzymes that are released, the saliva, what the saliva does to the food, right? So I think this is very easy if you remember. So let's start when you and the gut is the inner part of the digestive system, which is 9 meter long. It is very big, bigger than the size, the height of an adult, which may be around. If you take it 6 feet, it may be around 2 meters. So it start at your mouth and ends at your anus. So it start with the mouth taking things, right? So and then finally the things that are not needed by your body that need to be excreted or they need to be removed from your body. So there's called undigested food particles, fibers, and the things that are not absorbed, some water as well. But your gut is not just a simple tube. There are so many different parts of it. So now they're thinking that how this food is digested and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has beautifully created the digestive tract. We call it, this is the whole tract. It's not so simple, just tube that you put the food here and it immediately goes through down quickly and then it's removed from your body. And there's a very nice process which is involved when you eat a single bolus, a bite of food. What happens to that? So what do you call ingestion? Ingestion is different. Digestion is breaking down. Ingestion means taking food, okay, eating something or drinking. That's called ingestion. Injection, like you say, injection. They inject
Can
something.
I
Yeah, okay. You want to
can
comment?
I tell
Yeah,
can
yeah,
I tell
okay,
them ingestion
okay.
is the process when you take food or any drink or liquid inside into your body from the mouth.
Yeah, so you think, visualize your own. You don't need to remember all these information. You can visualize, you can remember what do you do when you are eating something, right? So first of all, you're eating, right? You wash your hands and you sit for a while and then you start eating. You start eating with your mouth. You're drinking water, you're drinking juices, you're eating food through your mouth. That is called ingestion. You are basically taking inside the food, taking inside. When this food is entering in your mouth, uh, it is a small of chunk, because you can bite those small, make this food into small pieces. Of course you won't put a whole bread, that will choke you because choking will take you won't be able to swallow it, right? So that's why you are your teeth is doing a job to cut it down into small chunks, small pieces, so that you can easily swallow that, because that is actually needed for the rest of the digestive tract to work on it. If food is in a big particles, if you swallow big chunks, so it's really bad for you. Start vomiting, and people will start pain, abdominal pain and spasm. They won't be able to digest the food very efficiently, very quickly. It will be giving problem. Rather, it could, you could damage also, you could tear the food pipe, which is the esophagus. Immediately when you swallow something, there's a food pipe, we call it. This is a hollow tube through which the food is passing down, going through the stomach. It's basically directing the food towards the stomach, right? So this is called the esophagus. So I think they have mentioned here, as you can see here, once you chew the food well, it is very important part of digestion. So what happens here? You have saliva. Immediately saliva glands make mix with the food. Salivary glands is slimy in nature, right? Slippery. It's a slippery mucus, so that you can easily swallow that. What do you think of a person who is dryness of mouth? He didn't drink well. Do you think he or she can digest food very well? It will be very hard for the food to have any secretions, right? So the food will not be softer. It will not be soft enough to swallow it. So salivary gland is the first thing. That's why if you look at some yummy food and you smell something good from the kitchen, all of a sudden what happens? Your body is reacting, preparing your mouth for eating. So you will see that it will water your mouth. They say this will water your mouth. What does it mean? That salivary gland is now stimulated, because now your body is thinking probably you are going to have yummy food. So this is a preparatory, when you sit on a dining table and you look at the food, just by looking at the food and little smell of the food will make your saliva to come out, secrete and trigger, it will release. So a salivary uh, gland also is releasing saliva, contains amylases. Okay, what is amylase? Which enzyme, what part of food is digested by amylase?
Can I tell?
Yeah,
Enzyme amylase is carbohydrates, so it digests starch.
very true. It's going to digest starch, and that's why if you are chewing bread for a little longer, you might see the sweetness. The sweetness, flavor, or sweetness of that food will increase, because you are giving more time for amylase to work in releasing sugar, right? So starch is digested by amylases. And mucus, that is the secretions that you see, and that mucus is a slimy secretion. That is a saliva, and it also helps food to slip down your throat, right? So if this bolus you already have through your teeth, you have cut it into a small chunk, small piece. Your tongue is also mixing the saliva. That's why when you're chewing, your tongue is constantly mixing the food, and yet it can also detect any hard object. If there's something which you cannot digest, like part of bones, for example, in or maybe stones or any hard particle or hard food, you immediately threw it away. Okay, because your tongue is scanning actually the food, touching the hard thing, and it also mixing saliva here, because you can see at the salivary gland. So it's releasing the saliva, and the tongue is mixing in this bolus. I think they have mentioned here, this is the hard palate, the roof of your buccal cavity. You have, if you immediately after the teeth, this is the hard bony area, right? So there's hard one, so that part is basically helping the food to make it into smaller chunks, and puts pressure on it, and supporting the teeth, and also uh, uh, the mixing of food for a while. Okay, and then one is soft enough in the form of ball of food, so it contains saliva, is soft enough. So this is a soft palate, this is towards the back of your mouth. So this is the softer one, this is not hard. Okay, under the nasal bridge and others, in the back of your mouth, you would see this is the soft palate. And this is this bolus is then is you are swallowing it, you are basically now ingesting, getting into the inside your body. So it goes down through another pipe or tube, which is called esophagus. Okay, so you could see here, when you swallow, so you keep in mind the flap of the skin, which is called epiglottis, is covering a part of the trachea. Okay, so here I think you will see that epiglottis is the your trachea is basically the windpipe through which you are breathing, that goes through the lungs, and you don't want that this food should get into the lungs, right? So this food should go not into the trachea, to the windpipe. So epiglottis is covering the trachea, so that if you are swallowing, so this trachea is covered. Okay, so trachea is, this is called a lid, like you are covering your bowl or your cup, for example, with a lid. So this is kind of a lid. That is why it's not recommended when you are eating, you should not talk. If you're talking, so this epiglottis will be moving, so this is possible that food can go in trachea, and people start immediately intense coughing. They start vomiting and coughing. Why? Because the food will go in trachea, and this is not the right tract for the food. The food should go in the esophagus. That is, the esophagus is the tube that is receiving that food after you swallow it. So gradually they have shown what exactly is the swallowing. So I think swallowing is just as a is a reflex. Reflex mean it happens without you thinking about it. So when you eat, you don't control. You just can swallow it. You don't have to do hard work on it. So you're mixing, chewing, breaking into smaller chunks, smaller pieces. The bolus is formed, and then you finally swallow it down, right? Next time when you swallow, think about all the things that are happening. So when you eat, maybe after a while, maybe you will be taking your dinner, right? You will be having your dinner. So now think about the part of roti. You start your bread, immediately you cut into small pieces with your hands, right? And then you mix it with curry, and then you take a smaller chunk, and then you chew it. You don't immediately swallow that. You chew it for a while. You mix the thing. You put even meat which is hard, you won't swallow it because it's giving you indigestion. So it's not going to give comfort to your belly. You start pain in the tummy. So the best thing would be that you chew it. The meat should be soft enough so that you can mix it properly. Okay, and your stomach can receive it properly to digest the food. Okay, so now, I think this is the part that we have discussed. Now let's talk about the swallowing. So what happened when you swallow that, as I mentioned, esophagus is just immediately is receiving this bolus. Okay, so this small ball of food that you have chewed, saliva is mixed here, amylase is there, mucus is there. So now you swallow that. During swallowing, what is the most important function? Which part of the body is, what is that part that is covering the trachea, so that the food does not go
May
in
I
the, what is the name of
may I
that?
tell? Epiglottis.
Yeah, epiglottis. Epi mean above. Epi mean above. Glottis mean on that covering. This cover the windpipe, the breathing tube. Because the wind will pass through the trachea and the lungs, right? You don't want that food should go there. So now what basically this esophagus is doing with the bolus, the small tube. This esophagus is also called gullet, and some of, also in case of animals, this uh, it varies actually from animals to animals, but human has got a very efficient esophagus, and also big animals, because they have to swallow it in a gradual way, so it does not go immediately. This what happened basically, you could see here that the part before the bolus is contracted. So when this is contracted, this part, so what will happen? The muscle contraction will push the food down. Okay, and now this part is relaxed, so the food is gradually going down, and this part is contracting, so pushing the food bolus or this ball down. So this contraction and relaxation is in a sequence. It's a very good sequence. So it started here. So when this part is pushed, you will see that the bolus is going down. It will come here now. Okay, so now this part will contract, and this will further go down until this bolus is reached into the stomach, and that is received by your stomach. So this moment of contraction and relaxation contraction and relaxation is called peristalsis. These we call it peristaltic movement. These are sequential movements. So one is following another. Contraction is followed by relaxation. So not the whole tube is contracting at one time. So if the whole tube is contracting at one time, what will be the disadvantage? Simultaneously, if the whole esophagus is contracting, what will be the disadvantage of this activity? What do you think? What comes to your mind?
Can I tell?
Yeah, okay.
Food will not pass down.
Food
It
will
will.
not be passing down. Food, a part of it may be passing down, but do you think there will be some other process as well? Any other disadvantage? This is one thing, it will definitely not move smoothly. That is true. That's very true. But you remember, if this whole part is contracting, a part of this food might go up, coming back in your mouth. You start vomiting, right? So it's just by bolus, and this will also damage, putting pressure on the esophagus wall, and this tube might rupture if it is contracting immediately. Why? Because this food is not that digested. It's soft enough, of course. That's why you have to swallow it, chew it properly. It's also in sunnah that you chew it properly before you swallow it. Because if you swallow it, you might see that immediately you swallow, you start pain in this tube. Why? Because the food is hard and it's now straining the inner surface of this esophagus, which is not good, right? So esophagus has a circular muscle. They are in circles, okay, round circle muscle, not longitudinal. And these muscle, when they contract and squeeze it behind the food to push it along the esophagus. So squeezing, just like a toothpaste out of the tube. Okay, when you are squeezing, which part of the toothpaste, the tube you are pressing, the part behind the bulk of the toothpaste, right? Behind the paste. When you press it, so this part you are pressing, so that's why toothpaste will also come out. Similarly, your esophagus is doing the same thing, squeezing a part of that part behind the food particle or behind the food bolus or a ball of the food. Okay, so this also bite that you have taken, so it will go down. And this is sequential movements, squeezing and contraction and relaxation is called peristalsis. So this is very, very important process that you should keep in mind. Okay, this is called peristalsis. And now after esophagus, the food is now where? So if you remember, your part of the food is now going to the stomach, right? If you can see here, so this is the diagram. You could easily correlate that this is the tubing, this is the esophagus, the tube which is finally bringing food down into the stomach, right? So stomach is receiving the food now. This is also a very muscular part of your body. This is a muscular organ of your body which is further helping in digestion. So the bolus that you are coming, bolus by bolus, that's why you should not eat with so much speed. You should not overeat, because if you are overeating, you are overburdening your stomach, right? That's why then we say we are full enough. The wall of the stomach is stretched, it of course, and then it gives signal to your system, your brain, that okay, you have enough food now, and the stomach cannot hold it anymore. People who are eating less, definitely the size of stomach is also small. If you are eating so much, finally you are basically putting much pressure on stomach to accommodate more food. And you could see there are many organs that are in coordination. Liver, what does it do? What do you think? What comes to your mind? What is the role of liver in digestion? Have you read about that, or do you know about it?
Um, liver is a part of um, organ that is above the stomach, and
Yeah, what does it do?
Sir, can I tell?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
It makes bile.
Yeah, it makes bile. Bile is also coming. See, it's connected to the intestine. You could see here. Pancreas is also connected. So I think they have shown it here. So let's talk about the activity in the stomach. What's going on? Because your food is now after esophagus is now in the stomach, right? So your stomach is muscular bag that will hold about 2 liters of food. So maximum capacity, 2 liters. And that's why we drink water before we eat. So part of it should be, because water will be efficiently absorbed, and it will also mix the food properly, and you don't overburden. If you don't uh, drink water before food, what will happen? You can accommodate more food particles, more amount of food, and then you drink water after you have finished eating. So I think this is bad, because you are now overburdening your stomach. Your stomach is now uh, can hold maybe a little more, and that will have problem with digestion. So it's always recommended to have good water before you eat, okay, before start eating. So when food reaches your stomach, so what happened inside? So it gets all uh, the secretions are there, and it's processing the whole material, and there's a special kind of treatment, a special process. So what does it do? Stomach can also make digestive juices, and that will further help in digestion of proteins to amino acids. So one part of the stomach is digesting the proteins. Proteins are also digested in intestine, but part of it is digested in stomach. That is the first part of digestion. So you are producing more amino acids here, and these amino acids would be then taken will be delivered to the intestine, where they will be absorbed in the intestine, okay, because from the esophagus to the stomach, as you can see here, so the food is coming here, you can see in this part. So yeah, so you can see here a part of it will be digested here, and then it will be delivered to the intestine. The pinkish one is the small intestine, and then the brownish one is the large intestine, okay. So this small intestine, you can see folding, so it can easily be fit in your body, although it's 9 meter long or 6 to 9 meter long, but it can easily fit because it has lot of folds, and you can easily see that on in the belly, that this area is really compact, right? Having stomach and intestine, and then above that area you have liver, okay. So intestine is the part of your body that is absorbing most of the things, amino acid, glucose, fats, and nutrients, many of the nutrients, and we'll talk about why intestine is the good or area to absorb most of the food or most of the nutrients. I think they have given a special thing that in stomach is hyper, we call it gastric acid, okay. You have more acidic, we call it hydrochloric acid, HCl. Hydrochloric acid is needed for the activity of proteases, because this acidic environment, especially with the pepsin is a proteolytic enzyme, okay. One of the proteases are different proteolytic enzyme, they break down proteins. So pepsin is activated in the presence of hydrochloric acid. This is very good for, and hydrochloric acid would also kill pathogens, microbes, and germs that may enter in water or with food, so that would be killed by acidic. So acidic environment is really good for the protection of your body as well. And there's a very special thing about babies. We don't have an adult, we don't have renin secreted here in the intestine, sorry, in the stomach, but babies can make, uh, this special enzyme which is called renin, and it makes more milk more solid, because work on the milk, and the more milk will remain for a little longer time in the stomach. Do you think this milk will be this activity is good? Why?
Yes, is
Okay.
should I tell why?
Yes, why?
For the good for the baby, because the baby doesn't like it usually drinks milk. It doesn't eat any food, so so it solidifies the milk. So then the milk can stay in the stomach more longer, and
This is one of the reasons that babies, they cannot, of course, eat meat, right? You don't give them eggs or any big proteins or uh, other diet that adult person is eating or mature people are eating, right? Babies are dependent on milk, and milk has got milk proteins, right? So milk is liquid. So if you give, milk will come over here from the stomach, it will immediately pass to the intestine without being digested enough in the stomach. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has produced a special enzyme for babies, special protection. So okay, renin will be secreted instead of a lot of hydrochloric acid. So renin is converting milk to solidify it, because it convert this milk protein into solid proteins. Okay, so they can remain. Sorry.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Renin, like it's the enzyme, so it just produces like it's kind of like a builder enzyme. It produces milk, or
No, no, no. It's
so it,
breaking down. It's actually modified the milk. If you put actually renin in the milk, sometimes it's also, I think these days commercially they are using it for the yogurt production, like yogurt, kind of a yogurt. It convert the milk into a semi-solid form, not very hard, not very liquidy. So this is not very fluid, and that is actually needed. Yeah, for renin is an enzyme. This is a breaking enzyme, not a building enzyme. It's not building anything special, is just breaking down some of the proteins of the milk, and then it convert it into semi-solid. Semi-solid means it's not soft enough but not liquid, so it does not pass quickly. If it goes quickly from stomach to the intestine, so babies cannot digest a part of protein, so they may lose nutrients, amino acids. So that's why they have a very special mechanism, and it goes away with age. When they definitely growing, they lose this renin activity, and then they have a hydrochloric acid because they will eat proteins like us. Okay, so children can eat proteins, and then they are growing and their body demand is increasing, so they need more nutrients. They are not dependent on just milk, right? For 1.5 or 2 years, definitely they are dependent on milk, right? And after that, you gradually introducing other food. So the muscular word churn of the food. Okay, churning of, what do you mean by churning of? Churning is mixing. This is called mixing. Okay, churning means mixing. It's contracting, because as you know, it's a muscular bag. It's a muscular bag. So it muscles is constantly contracting. Like you have your very hard balloon, and you put something inside, and then you press it against the wall. The things will definitely squash, and the thing will definitely be dissolved. And stomach also has secretions, okay, enzymes and other secretion that will be mixing up with food, and that's churning is called kind of a juice. And that this juice part can now easily pass through the intestine, because intestine is still a bigger structure. It can accommodate even if food is little solid, but of course an intestine is a smaller area, so it's a small tube, right? So you don't want a lot of solid material here. You want something which is a little bit soft, and also it can flow through this tube. So stomach is preparing this food for digestion. Apart from digesting proteins, it is also preparing this food to be transported to the intestine in a very good way, so that it can be easily digested. Okay, and you can see the acidity part, the acidic nature, the hydrochloric acid in the stomach is also protecting us against germs. Okay, so after 2 to 3 hours of churning, you could see here food is now runny liquid. Okay, this is the runny liquid, so it can easily now pass through the intestine. Intestine is a tube, right? So you can easily see that it can easily go through. So a thin muscle opens to let the food squirt out, and it pours into the small intestine, or little at a time. Okay, it does not pouring all of a sudden the whole contents of the stomach, gradually just pouring immediately a part of it. This got squirting out when you, with a little pressure and a splash. Okay, it brings the food in the intestine. Oh, and you could see it takes time here, and even for the intestine definitely needs time, because if you immediately put the whole contents of the stomach, what will happen? Do you think this intestine can accommodate that much food? So it passes into the, it cannot, because intestine is a smaller part, it's a narrow tube. Okay, and it's also folded. So of course, if something is folding, you cannot push things. So it's really bad for the stomach. It's not good for stomach to immediately push all the things, all the contents, because it will put more pressure on the stomach wall. It can rupture also the intestine, and it can also be dangerous for the muscles of the stomach. So what does it do? It's gradually, bits and pieces, little by little, passing this food into the intestine. So now from the esophagus, You have in the stomach. Now the food is in the runny liquid, in the form of runny liquid form. Now let's see what's going on in the intestine. This is the major part of the digestion that you have digested. So we'll move further. And your small intestine, which one is the small intestine? As I mentioned, the pinkish one, this part, this is the small intestine, right? I think you can read it here. Yes, now is it clear? So you can see,
Yes.
yeah, so the small intestine, now the actual process of digestion, a part of it was digested in the stomach, of course. And then finally you have many things that are coming in the intestine. First of all, pancreatic juices. So you could see here an organ which we call it pancreas, right? Pancreas, you remember, is secreting insulin, also taking care of the glucose in your body, right? But pancreatic juices is also connected, right, to the you can see here in this diagram that I've shown it here. So liver is also producing bile, which is connecting to the small intestine bile duct. Pancreas is bringing pancreatic juices through the pancreatic duct. Duct is just a tubing, right? So it's pouring in the intestine. It's bringing from the liver. So because liver brings something which is very special, and pancreatic juices are also bringing something which is very special for the digestion. And what is that special? First of all, pancreatic juices contain proteases. So another protein that will be digested, right? And lipases and carbohydrates. Pancreatic juice has got three major components. You have carbohydrate like amylase, you have chymotrypsin, and in the stomach you had pepsin. You have another protease, another proteolytic enzyme that will break down proteins. Okay, a part of it was, of course, digested here, but you still have undigested protein. You don't want to waste that protein, so that protein will be digested by the pancreatic juices, because the pancreas is pouring that juice which is containing lipase, carbohydrates, and proteases. And then you have bile, which is coming from the liver, bile duct. Bile is made in the liver, and it can be stored in the gallbladder. Okay, I think they have shown a gallbladder here. Yeah, so here's the gallbladder. That is the uh, bile which the liver will store. And you might have seen it when you slaughter animals. At the lower part of the liver, you might see a greenish, small, uh, very shiny and thin bag. That's called this, basically the bladder that is storing the bile, and it's really a very it's not acceptable for taste. People remove it. They remove this part because it contains salts and all these enzymes that is really not giving good taste. So liver is secreting bile, pancreatic juices are coming. So what is exactly in the bile? When bile enters the small intestine from the bile duct, bile is made in the liver and is stored in the gallbladder. It has two important jobs. First of all, bile is alkaline and neutralized acids which was added to the food in the stomach. So remember that now food in the intestine has got alkaline environment, not acidic environment. As remember that the food was coming from the stomach. Stomach has got hydrochloric acid, right? So hydrochloric acid is no more needed in the intestine. So that is neutralized by the bile because bile has got sodium bicarbonate. This really a very strong alkaline nature. Okay, and some of the enzymes are working best at the pH, in the alkaline pH. So that's why small intestine enzymes will work best in the alkaline, and that job is done by bile. Bile is also helping digestion, and bile is emulsifiers. When we say emulsifiers in the fats, they are breaking down large droplets of fat into smaller droplets. You might have seen it if you put some oil and milk, right? You will see that there is a big layer of milk on the top of the milk. If you pour any oil, olive oil, or maybe any other oil, vegetable oil, on milk, you would see a layer. But when you mix it gradually, vigorously, what will happen? This oil droplets will spread all over the milk. Okay, they are small droplets. This got emulsification. This got emulsifying. So bile has this capacity to break this bigger fats into smaller droplets, because smaller droplets, now lipase can work on small droplets very well. Lipase, of course, cannot work on bulk of the oil if it is just spread in the intestine like that. So it has to be mixed properly in the secretions in the form of small drops. That is called emulsification. Okay, so boil, first of all, the function of boil is because pancreatic juices is now here, and you have proteases, other enzymes, and these enzymes are working an alkaline pH, and this best pH is provided by bile. Bile is doing one thing, which is providing a very good pH to work and digest the food, and then it also help in emulsification of fats, breaking
Excuse me,
down
sir.
long. Sorry.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Bile is a liquid, right?
Correct. Yes. Correct. Yeah. There's
Okay.
yeah. There's a liquid. Yeah. So and bile is this liquid has got ability to break down, to mix that larger fats, bulk of fat into smaller droplets. And now this will also increase the surface area because you have more now fats spread throughout the intestinal wall, and then lipase enzyme can easily work there, and that's why fatty acids will be released, and that will be digested. Intestinal juices are also there. Intestine itself is producing juices, which is made of glands in the wall. In the small intestine also releases carbohydrates, proteases, and lipases in it, and these enzymes complete the digestion of food, right? So that's why you have all the food which is coming to the intestine by pancreatic juice, by bile juice, and by intestinal juice. This whole material is now converted starch into glucose, proteins and amino acids, and fats into lipase. A part of this material which is not digested due to any reason, because you may not be 100% digesting, we get majority of the nutrients here. Now we'll be moving to the large intestine of the body. Large intestine is now storing undigested. You can see here large intestine is a bigger in structure, so it can store undigested food, and this part is also absorbing water, and that is why people who are not drinking enough water, their stool will be very hard. And babies, especially infant, if they are not drinking much milk or they are not taking much water, so the large intestine, the contents in the large intestine before going through the anus, passing out of your body, so people will develop constipation. They won't be able to pass stool very easily. That's why your doctor would say take good fibers, vegetables and fruits. At the same time, also drink enough water, because water will also be, if you're not taking enough water, most of the water will be absorbed in the large intestine. You won't have the food will be the contents in the large intestine will be very hard to pass out of the body, okay, in the form of feces. You got my point? Is it easy?
Yes.
Okay, you could see here they are saying that proteins, we are so big molecules, they are bigger structure, and they're saying we can't go through this wall like that. So you need proteases to break them down one unit by unit, one by one. So now they are saying we are smaller enough, you can go through the intestinal wall, okay, through the intestine, we can easily pass through. So this whole process got digestion. I'm sure that now you easily remember. So what was the part that we started at the mouth? So what is the first step that we are doing in the mouth? Who is going to explain quickly? And then what happens next in the sequence?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the process of digestion. You start from mouth. What happens to the food when we take it, when we ingest?
May
Starting
I
from the
tell?
mouth, going in sequence.
May I tell?
Mhm.
Sabi has
Okay, Sabia, go ahead, please.
starting from the after when it was after the mouth and the teeth, and after the teeth and the mouth chew up and make it into small parts. It goes down through the esophagus
No, but
into the
what the salivary gland is doing then?
his salivary gland is producing saliva.
Saliva, and saliva is what? It contains what?
Saliva, saliva contains amylase.
Uh-huh. And what is the other
That's it,
job of saliva?
and proteins.
Yeah, you're coating of the food to make it soft enough so that you can swallow it very easily. People who do not have enough saliva, they cannot swallow very easily. Swallowing difficulty. There's one disease, and there's severe dryness of mouth. And what disease? They don't produce enough saliva. So what will happen? The food will choke, definitely stuck. They cannot swallow. They cannot eat well. There's one then they doctor would give them some drugs and also artificial lubricants that to swallow that, right? And one of the things that we are using oil also along with saliva, and the food is little oily, that will also help in swallowing the food. Okay, once it is swallowed, so what happened here at the
It
throat?
goes esophagus into the stomach,
Yeah.
liver,
So
juice.
what are the two important processes? One thing, the food is swallowing down to the food pipe or food tube, which is esophagus, and there's another protective mechanism that we discussed here. There's another part we discussed. When you are talking, what happened? If people were eating at the same time they're talking, especially if you are eating biryani rice, they have small
The
particles.
muscles, the muscles contract and relax.
No, not here. So not what will happen if you'll eat, you'll talk. So the food can enter the windpipe, which is trachea. You don't want it should go in the trachea because that's for breathing, right? It's not for swallowing food. But if you are eating, a food particle will go in the trachea, and immediately people will start vomiting and coughing, severe coughing. There's a natural response. Yeah, and then yeah. So what is protecting that food not going
Epiglottis.
into trachea?
Epiglottis.
Epiglottis, very good. There's epiglottis. Then going down in the esophagus. So what are the what's taking place? What's going on in the esophagus when the food is received there?
The the esophagus contracts and relax, keeps on contracting, keeps on relaxing, and
Uh-huh.
then it goes
So what do we call
inside
this process? Contraction and relaxation in
peris-
esophagus?
peristalsis.
Huh?
Peristalsis. Peristalsis.
Peristalsis. Peristalsis. Yeah, peristaltic movements are peristalsis. Very good. Yes. Peristalsis movement is the contraction and relaxation that is pushing the food down. It goes in the stomach, right?
Yes,
And then
it
what
goes
happened
into
here?
the stomach. The stomach means digestive juices, and these juices contain the hydrochloric acid, and they also contain proteases, which
Okay, very
start the
good.
hydrochloric acid helps give a acidic pH to the stomach so the proteins can work best.
Okay, very good. Nasadia, now you'll good give chance to other student. Thank you. Well done. Well explained. Very nice. So who is going to take a chance now? What happened next, please? Yes, Vania? You want to explain? Who's going to explain what will happen next? What is the job of stomach next? She mentioned that okay, the food is there, and now proteases are there, digesting proteins, hydrochloric acid is there, protecting against germs and pathogens or microbes that we are ingesting with food. And you remember, stomach is a bag, right? Muscular bag. Muscular bag means it can also churn or mix the food to make it like a juice of a food, right? This is runny liquid. This is the because you don't want hard food to be entering intestine, because intestine has to have liquidy part, because it cannot accommodate very harsh or hard food. It cannot even accommodate semi-solid. It can easily absorb things that are dissolved will be absorbed in the intestine. Okay, very good. Yes, I think yeah, you explained it very well. And the intestine make sure that you have pancreas that is bringing pancreatic juices, and you have liver which is bringing bile. Pancreatic juice is helping in all amylase, carbohydrates. You mentioned proteases, right? And we mentioned lipases. So bile is bringing this pH, not from back to basic environment, not from acidic, because this was acidic. So this bile will make it alkaline. This pH will be now increased. So increase in pH will make these enzymes very active to digest. Lipases can work very good in the presence of bile. Bile can make these droplets bigger fats into smaller droplets, increasing the surface area. Okay, so finally let's go to the yeah. So now what once the food is inside the intestine and these all juices are there and part of food is all digested. You remember proteins are digested. So you have very beautiful structure of the intestine. Intestine is you know is folding. So this folding is giving extra space, extra time for food, for this liquid to absorb nutrients from the liquid part. The digested food that we have will pass through the intestinal wall. Okay, the small intestinal wall is a very good job to, apart from digestion, it will absorb. The small intestine is well designed for absorption. Why? Because It has a very thin lining. The intestinal wall has got very thin lining and a very good blood supply and a very large surface area. Okay, so the surface area that they are going is giving you is through the villi, the structure of the villus. Villi are the projections inside, like you have seen it. If you see
Excuse
the
me.
intestinal wall, there are small projections on the inner surface. Yeah, you have a question? Okay, so the surface area of the small intestine is about 9 square meter, right? So how is this kept in surface area in such a small space? As you know that we discussed about that, you cannot accommodate this bigger structure in a small space in your tummy. How does it accommodate? Because it's folding. Okay, it's got so many folds. The intestine has got so many folds, right? Do you agree with that?
Excuse.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes. Excuse me.
the small intestine is very long, right? So maybe for less 6 meters. 6 meters is very long, very big space, but it has folded inner lining, so it's also folded inside, and it has millions of tiny finger-like projections. We call them villi. So keep in mind, inside the intestinal wall, wait a minute, did we discuss here in this intestine inside? I didn't actually get the picture because of shortage of time, but if you'll go through Google image, there is a type villi or villus. You can easily find that villi are inside this intestinal wall, inside in the inner wall. And these villi are giving good surface area for absorption. What do you mean by surface area? That the food will be in good contact. If it is just a smooth pipe, if you see the water pipe is smooth, right? Because we want the water to pass quickly through the pipe. So we don't any delay in water coming to our tape, or we want to fill in the tank, for example. But the intestine is not a smooth tube. Intestinal inner wall is folded, first of all, and then it has a lot of projection. They are giving you one example of the projection. This is called villi. So villi are so many. Vellus is one vellus. Okay, single projection.
Excuse me.
Yeah, yes.
Is absorption a part of digestion?
Yeah, digestion actually, digestion is preparing your food for absorption. It's a part, of course, the whole process called digestion. Digestion is breaking down. If you scientifically define digestion is a breaking down of bigger molecule into smaller molecules. Okay, and after digestion, the next process is absorption. Like for example, starch is digested into glucose. Now glucose is absorbed. Okay, so this whole process, you divide digestion into different different processes: breaking down and then absorption. So there's if any of this is not working, definitely you cannot get good nutrients for your body. So your body won't work and won't get the enough nutrients which is needed. So I think the villi you could see here as a good structure is a good capillaries. It's very thin. What do you think? The food that will come, you have so many such particles, such projections. Okay, so many. So they are just hanging. You could see inside the intestinal wall. So hanging the intestinal inner side of the intestine, the tube. So food can easily get in contact with these villi. So anything which is a nutrient, amino acid, glucose is well absorbed because you have capillaries here. And fats, we have also lymphatic system here. That is the fluid part. Okay, that is also absorbing fats. And then finally it's taking away fat. You could see here blood is coming here constantly, and this blood is picking up food, glucose, amino acids, and salts, in water, and then it's going taking it and taking it to the general circulation, okay, to your body, the rest of your body. So they are absorbing, intestine is absorbing things from here, and then it's going to your body. And the lymph is also absorbing the fatty acids. So keep one thing in mind, that amino acids and sugar are absorbed in the blood, while fats have a special mechanism, right? Has a special absorption process, that is through the lymphatic system. There is a fluid part. It's not the blood itself, it's the fluid part. Lymphatic system is, again, you have lymph nodes, and then they are carrying these fats, and fatty acids are absorbed, and then they are draining these to the rest of the body. They are bringing into the rest of the body. Okay, So I think you can read these are blood capillaries. Why intestine is got a very good absorption properties, because they have very good blood supply, because this blood is less in these amino acids and glucose, right? Because they are constantly used in your body, so they are very efficiently absorbed. Amino acids are very efficiently absorbed, right? And this called lectile. We call lectile is the lymphatic part, the fluid part. As these are called the capillaries, the vessels that are containing this fluid part is absorbing fatty acids. So lectile is these vessel absorbing fatty acids, okay, fats, that is responsible for the absorption of fats. And I think the next of the part that they are saying that whatever food is digested is reabsorbed, and the undigested part they will pass through your body, okay. That digested part will go in the blood, this is for sure, okay. That is because needed for your body. So I think this they have given here the large intestine also. So the small intestine part, you got it, mostly absorption. Absorption, this is an experiment, they just want to show what happens. We did it before, I think, with the starch and iodine test. The same thing, you can read it yourself. We just finished the large intestine. So small intestine is for the absorption of most of the thing. All the things that are digested will be absorbed very efficiently through the villi in the intestine. The large intestine is now storing undigested part, okay. That is the undigested part, the food which is not useful, maybe you don't, this is left out food. It's mainly fiber, maybe dead cells, maybe bacteria, and some water as well. And it's processed along the large intestine. Some of the water is reabsorbed here. Water is reabsorbed. That's why you don't take much water. The feces, the stool that you're going to pass will be very hard. Okay. So when a part of this water is absorbed, this liquidy part that was absorbed most of the water, also most of the nutrients also, is finally getting semi-solid, okay, because we want that stool to be little semi-solid, not very hard, not very soft. If it's very soft or watery, it will be causing diarrhea, right? So this is really, your large intestine cannot accommodate much amount. So you just want bulk, little bulk. They should be stored for maybe a couple of hours, 24 to 48 hours, then you pass it early morning, yeah, defecation, we call it stool, okay. So first pass through the rectum. So eventually those feces are egestion, these got egested, okay. Egestion is the undigested part which is going going out of your body through anus. The passing out of the indigestible food through the anus is in the form of feces is called egestion. So we started with ingestion, 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 then finally we digested the food. After digestion, it is absorbed. After whatever is absorbed, the rest is undigested part, and that will be called egestion, that you are getting rid of the undigested part, okay. And normally it takes maybe 24 to 48 hours. People who have constipation, they may take longer, they may not pass stool very easily, okay. First of all, the stool passing will be very hard for them, and they also retain much of the food in digested part in the large intestine, because they don't eat much fiber, they don't drink water, or they are more into junk food, they don't eat whole grain or whole wheat, for example. So the whole length, you know, you need 24 to 48 hours to pass this food through the whole length of the digestive system, okay. So this is what the digestion we have covered so far, and I think the rest will be probably question and answer, but we'll stop it here. If you have any question so far, do you have any question? So what is difference between ingestion and egestion? Yeah, go ahead.
Intestine, it is the taking in of it is that it is the taking in of food and drink from your mouth.
Very good. This is called ingestion. When you are eating your food, you are drinking something, you are bringing it into your body. That is called ingestion. And egestion, egestion. E is for exit, right? Exiting your body. this food is egestion, exiting that food which is undigested, left over. So you remember the whole process from esophagus to going to stomach. Stomach is processing, churning, mixing, making it to a runny juice or liquid, and bringing it to intestine, pushing it to intestine, bits and pieces, a little bit, not all of a sudden. The whole contents are poured into the intestine, but gradually it's coming, and intestine is now further digesting. Further digestion will be followed by absorption of the nutrients. Okay, so these nutrients are absorbed, so now the things that are left over are not needed by your body. So maybe 5% digested dead cells, because your mucosal cell and other cells that are working might be dead. Some cells might be dead, right? And that those part will be, of course, taken out of your body. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Inshallah. If you have any question, right now we'll close it, and inshallah it's available, I think, directly on YouTube, so you can watch it later. If you don't understand, we can inshallah discuss it later on. Okay, thank you so much.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.